Well, I want you to explain yourself. Your father was a staunch Republican and general counsel to Tenneco, is that right? How does a girl raised in a conservative Houston suburb transform herself into, as you put it, the dripping fangs liberal you've become? You've fallen pretty far from the tree.
Where did my parents go wrong? It's true. I don't normally talk about that. Actually, the best interview I had on book tour was with Terry Gross on Fresh Air.
Yeah, it's good.
And I found myself talking about my father on National Public Radio, so it was sort of like being psychoanalyzed.
You're only supposed to do that on the Tony Grant show. She's off the air now, though.
Yeah.
She's finding herself.
Yeah, my old man was in the oil business and real right-wing. And I don't, it may be that my politics are the result of some teenage rebellion that's just lasted for 35 years. But I suspect that they started, and this is true of most Southern liberals, with race. Actually, I blame it on my mother, who tried very hard to teach me good manners. You can imagine how she winces when she hears me now. But she did work at it. And the thing about growing up in the South, anywhere in the South before the Civil Rights Movement, was that you sooner or later became aware that grown-ups were lying to you. And that a lot of the things they told you just weren't true. And you know how horribly logical little children can be. I remember being told not to drink out of that fountain, dear, it's dirty. Well, we lived on the white side of town, and the white fountain was always covered with chewing gum and little kids' grubby paws marks, and the colored fountain was clearly the cleaner fountain. And so when you start wondering about stuff like that, and it had to do, too, with social relationships, we don't say thank you to the maid. Well, why not? You told me to say thank you whenever somebody did something for me. Well, we pay the maid, dear. We pay the waitress in the restaurant, but you always thank the waitress. Well, I mean, these sort of gradations of politeness, because politeness is a very big thing in the South. The oddity of manners, which differed from person to person according to color, I think were what first raised my curiosity. And I was just always aware that they were telling a lot of lies about race. There was some curious reason why people didn't tell the truth about black people. And as I grew older, my first political involvement was in the Civil Rights Movement. I told Judge Justice I was going to write a book about it, the East Texas Civil Rights Movement, and call it Nobody Famous Ever Came. Martin Luther King never came, Stokely never came, Freedom Riders never came, CBS never came. God damn. It was just a bunch of uppity niggers and a couple of local communists. And it was always hot, and we were always scared, and there was nothing glamorous about it. I was so scared I wet my pants every time I got arrested. And I never, I don't look back on that with any of the sort of nostalgic romanticism. I mean, God, we were so backward in East Texas, we didn't even know the songs. We Shall Overcome, we knew We Shall Overcome, but that was it, you know, none of the really good peppy ones. It was always hot, and we were always scared. And that was what it was like.
We talk about your politics being shaped also by, we say, three essential things: being female, being tall, and being a reader.
Yeah. Being bigger than your average human being kind of made me ineligible early on for the norms of Southern womanhood. They put me on the basketball team when I was 4. Nothing I could ever do about it. Because, you see, Southern women are trained to be cute. And it's real hard to be cute when you're 6 feet tall. So I did. I grew up as sort of a, not rejecting the norms of Southern womanhood, but just sort of not being eligible. I mean, I always felt like a St. Bernard with a bunch of greyhounds. A Clydesdale among thoroughbreds, I always thought. And when growing up in East Texas in that era, your choice of role models was damn short. We had one woman governor, Ma Ferguson. She succeeded her husband, Pa, after he got impeached for good cause. Had a personality sort of like Hitler with a hangover. Actually, I regret it. As you know, my stories are all true. It's so depressing. When she ran for re-election on her own, and she was elected in her own right, her platform was she wanted to outlaw the teaching of Latin in the public schools of Texas on the grounds that the Bible is written in English, and if English was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for the And she was the only prominent woman I'd ever heard of. I mean, you know, of accomplishment in the political world, certainly, and really was not my choice as role model. And then, of course, the only other role models available were the Kilgore Rangerettes. I hope many of you know them and have seen them perform at halftime of Super Bowl games. They're very well known in their field.
Well, you talk in the book about this desperate yearning that every woman in Texas, unfortunately, to this day has to be a cheerleader or a beauty queen, like Miss Miracle Mulch.
I was actually third runner-up for Miss Onion one year.
How does
I
one
aspired to be Miss Turpentine Spirits. Okay.